Welcome everyone and happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us today as we take a sneak peek at Fanvil's new XS and XU series IP phones. My name is Hazel and I am in business development here at VoIP Supply. For those of you who aren't familiar with VoIP Supply, we have been prominent in the industry since 2002, sharing our expertise and providing support to over 125,000 customers worldwide. We are more than just a website. Our experts have over 10 years of experience. With your needs in mind, we will work with you to form a customized solution that best fits your needs. Before we start, I want to point out that you are welcome to submit your questions via the Q&A feature in the meeting portal. We just ask that you please wait until the end of the presentation. Our customers have been taking advantage of our flagship services, VoIP fulfillment and VoIP provisioning to leverage their business. Our custom portal and API will allow you real-time access to your project from when the order is placed to when the order is delivered. You no longer have to deal with time constraints and financial burden by completing the fulfillment and provisioning services in-house. Our team is here to take these off your hands. Our rental program has the best hardware in the industry. DAS, otherwise known as Device as a Service, gives your customers a variety of VoIP products for a low monthly payment. All you have to do is fill out a one-page application and approval is within days. Let me know if you're interested and we'll connect you to our channel manager, Don Stephanie, to speak further about this great program. His contact info is on this slide. All right, everyone, we are partnered up with some of the top service providers in the industry, such as Broadvoice, Nextiva, Pantera, System, and our family at Digium and Sangoma. Become an agent today and earn high residuals, receive special pricing on equipment, and have access to our extended team in the industry with a combined experience of 50+ years, almost twice my lifetime, you guys. I will now hand over the reins to Fanvil's Tommy Lee.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I won't comment on the age for myself, but that'll just be an embarrassing moment for me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on the time zone that you're in. What I'm going to do is really introduce a brand new series of IP phones that really take us to the next level in terms of expectations and what you can expect from an endpoint. I'm just going to go over 3 characteristics, which is the characteristics of the phones, the specification upgrades, which means that based upon what we're selling today versus the new upgrade, which is going to be in production in about 2 weeks. So, through VoIP Supply, you're going to have all the inventory that's going to be available to sort of meet your needs. And as well, I'm going to highlight what the highlight functions are. Excuse a little typo. I noticed that there should be a 1, 2, 3, but nonetheless, the highlighted function I'm going to talk about is a bit about how we differentiate against our competition, which is what I think most people are interested in. Okay. The characteristics that we're going to provide basically is the XU series. And the XU series is really divided into 4 categories. We call it the XU 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it really expands from really the low-end category all the way into the very high-end executive phones. On the XX series, that's just a smaller end because we take the X3, and on the low-end platform, we realize that geographically, people who are sort of very cost-sensitive and looking for a very low-end phone, we tend to go ahead and basically mitigate some of the feature sets to really achieve your cost objectives to meet that specific needs, but not compromising on feature sets. So I'm just going to go through some of the things that we do to really to show how we differentiate against all those categories. Again, some of the basic characteristics. Fanvil, in general, builds a lot of SIP. All our endpoints comply to the SIP standard. That's really the standard that's adopted by most of the businesses globally. But you'll also see that nearly all of our XU phones have really brought a new border in terms of what to expect as a minimum. All of our phones have all color screens going from entry level all the way to the top. That's a very big differentiator between Fanvil and our competition. One of the things we do is we have Opus. It's a relatively new codec that we have out that provides a very broad bandwidth for situations that have a low bandwidth availability. You can actually negotiate, for that specific codec to meet either a low-end or a high-end bandwidth capabilities, and the phone will work without chopping up your sound, at least in a wide variety of bandwidth. Again, we have IPv6, which is really the next generation. So you're not just buying for today and worrying about expiration. We already have IPv6 built throughout all of this line to make you prepared for the next generation when IPv4 addresses wear out. Let's talk about HD voice. Throughout most of the XU series products, we actually put in Harman speakers, which really brings the quality of sound throughout our speaker system. And I'm going to show you in more detail how we end up doing that. And in the high-end appearance and design, we've taken a look at our IP phones, and you're going to see on some of the details on how we separate and really make the phone easier to operate for people who are coming into this brand new technology. So here is the specification upgrade. As I mentioned earlier, the Fanvil XU series, the X3U, 4U, 5U, and 6U are all upgrades to the existing legacy product. Now, I'm not saying the legacy product is an EOL product, but with that product, we've added a lot of differentiators that really bring that to the upper level. Now, if you don't need those new features, you could still settle in for a lot of the existing products and achieve some cost goals that you might be able to do as we're bringing in a brand new series of phones. So let's just start off with the low-end X3SP as well as the X3SG series. This is our low-end, and if you notice, that even of our low-end phones, it starts off with a color screen. Most of the competition out there starts on the lower screen as black and white. And I think most people who have gone used to color, you could pretty much be reassured that. So we've gone all the way from the low end all the way to the high end. The X3SG really comes different at the end with gigabit Ethernet, and as well as X3S and P comes either standard and including PoE. So that low-end X3 series really has a lot of different flavors to really match your feature capability as well as your cost goals. Now let's go into the main series, which is what we're introducing as well, which is the Fanvil X3U as well as the U series. All of these phones, as you notice, when you begin with 4U, 5U, and 6U, all of them you're going to start having larger screens as well as larger DSS key capability. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out is that across all of these phones, you'll notice on the side of the window, there are actual buttons on the side of the window that really allows for us to differentiate between what you have as SIP accounts versus the speed dials or the function keys that you have in the lower right-hand corner. On some of the older generation phones that we had, you just had a screen on the top, of which this gives you the capability of outlining the SIP accounts all the way on the top of the window. So if you have 2 or 3 SIP accounts, you can actually see which ones that you want to dial out from and pick up those dials without interfering on your speed dials. Without these buttons, then what you'll end up doing is people will intrude on the speed dial buttons, and then what was once your DSS keys or your function keys turns into speed dial functions. So we were able to separate from the high end all the way to the entry level, different windows to function for different screens, so it's the best usage of real estate that we have. Now let's just start off with the X3U, the upgrade. We did a comparison between what you used before, and obviously, as you see here, we went from SIP lines going from 2 lines all the way up to 6. We began adding sideline keys, which is 3. Now, when you add sideline keys, we're talking about the sideline keys here on the side of the phone, because along with the SIP line account, you can actually have 3 that appear here, so that as the calls come in, you can actually pick up these lines one by one without interfering with any of the other functions. It becomes a lot more evident when you go up to the 4, 5, and 6 that has the other spare keys. Obviously, we've done a lot of upgrades to the phone book capability, but again, here with the old series versus the new, we've gone ahead and supported IPv6, Opus, and PoE, and as well support a GigE network throughout our U series. And obviously with the lower end product here, if you don't need these latest capabilities, then you can pick either one. But if you need to actually have the latest functionality, the U series is where you need to go. Now let's go to the X4U. Here we actually introduce sidebar keys. Now the real nice thing about this is that we actually introduce 30 keys. Even though it only shows 1, 2, 3, 6 keys here, this actually gives you 5 different pages that you can page through and see through, but at the same time also have the 3-line capability, so you can see both of these things operate side by side, in addition to the dynamic keys that are underneath the window here, which will change depending on what function you have on your phone. We also introduced a USB port, which is great if you want to put in a dongle to either support Bluetooth or Wi-Fi dongles. So this is actually available on the lower end, even on the Gig E. Now let's go to the X5U. This is a very popular phone that we have. And this phone, we actually introduced a much larger screen, 2.4-inch color, with now instead of 3, we actually have 4 sideline keys here to account for 4 SIP lines. And we still maintain the 30 DSS keys that we have here with multiple keys. A big difference here is that Bluetooth is now built into this phone. So instead of actually, if you need Bluetooth for your phone, you no longer have to spend an extra $20, $25 on a USB dongle. What you have now is the capability of being able to integrate Bluetooth onto your phone that's already part of the phone itself, whereas, that's even further cost savings than what we offer today. Obviously, with the extra dongle, you could also put in a Wi-Fi connection as well, depending on what your needs are. In the past existing ones, we negate and not have Opus on some of those, but now if you need Opus, you can now upgrade to the U series. And by the way, as I mentioned earlier, all of these phones will be in production sometime in about early December timeframe. Now the top of the line X6U upgrade. Here what we've done is we've actually doubled the side windows to 2, so that now what you end up having is we've increased the side keys to 5, increased the extra large screen, and of course obviously provided Opus and IPv6. What makes this phone a little bit different is that we've also incorporated Bluetooth as an integrated function into this phone. But what we've also added is the capability of supporting H.264 codec, which is the video codec. Very often you may use these phones on a one-way video application where you want to see a security camera on either an intercom or a door phone, and then you can actually have streaming video that's displayed on these phones. So throughout our entire series, this is what we're bringing out to the marketplace, and we also have wall mount adapters as well that actually fit this phone depending on what your needs are. Now you want to talk about differentiation. Out of all the phones that I've shown, we also provide a replaceable LCD panel. With all the phones that we've seen, primarily now it's targeted for the X3U and the X5U. You can actually put in your own logo or your own template. So if it's not Fanvil that you want, and you actually want your company or the service provider or an IT organization, if you prefer to have your logo on the phone, we can go ahead and actually take away this top piece of our Fanvil logo, and you could then put in your own logo to put on there. So what the end customer sees is actually your company name, and it serves as the company that they can contact in case they have questions about the PBX switch, voicemail, and etc. So all those options are available to you. We actually provide a very low threshold in terms of the X3 and the X5. We can actually go down to like a minimum order quantity of about 200 units. We'll also do it with the other ones, but then right now, those are sort of our sweet spots in terms of having one low end and one high end, being able to replace this, and it's capturing a lot of steam. So what you'll get is actually a blank screen like this, and then we can give you separate logos that either yourself or we can actually print for you, and then you could put in whatever logo that you want on the phone to meet your needs. That also goes as well with the external box and the gift boxes that these phones come in, so that all of those features come in as a generic box, and the phone is actually representative of what you do. So let's talk about the highlight functions. We talked about Wi-Fi connectivity, Bluetooth headsets. Call recording is something that it supports. You could actually take in and actually hook in a USB port. This is great for attorneys or things like that, those type of applications where people need to record things either locally on a USB drive or even on a network, because some PBXs out there support call recording. A very unique feature is SIP hotspot. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the future coming slides. And we also have FDMS, which is Fanvil's Device Management System, which actually we provide it free of charge to all of our partners, and that you can use the system not only to manage our phones, but also to manage our other door phones and intercoms all under one system. So let's just go ahead and start off with the Wi-Fi connectivity. All the phones that actually stock a USB port, which is the X4, 5, and 6U, could support Wi-Fi adapters. Not every office has cabling to support, cubes or offices that have it, but then if you have Wi-Fi, you can actually go ahead and do that. Many people online may be wondering, how in the world do I accomplish these things? Well, what I've done is actually put in a really quick cookbook. This is what I call, I guess a cooking for dummies type of 1, 2, 3 step, where you can actually go ahead and we walk you through a very 1, 2 step process and actually enabling the phone. If you know how to pair your Bluetooth smartphone to Wi-Fi, then you basically compare our phone as well. But I just took it a step further so that you have a step-by-step instructions on how to pair up our phone with your Wi-Fi system. Now let's talk about Bluetooth connectivity. Obviously, for those who decide not to speak on the speaker and want to use a headset, you can pair up the Bluetooth through our 4, 5, and 6. As I mentioned earlier, our 5 and 6 actually has Bluetooth integrated into the phone itself. Our 4U actually has an external USB that actually takes care of that for you. So then you can do really unique things like being able to pick up calls, answer calls just from your headset, which is a fine function. And again, we put in a simple 2-step process that you can work with our phone and be able to pair up a Bluetooth headset to our Fanvil desk phone. Now let's just talk about one added factor. Some people, we've actually taken it a step further in Bluetooth, and now you can actually pair your smartphone to your desk phone app. Why do I do that? Because I myself like using a speakerphone 90% of the time, and what I tend to do is I tend to pair up my smartphone. So if I put my smartphone on mute, when the smartphone rings, it'll actually ring my desk phone, and now the audio is coming through on the great Harman speakers that are integrated into my phone, which sounds a lot better than kind of talking into my smartphone from a Bluetooth standpoint. You could also configure it in such a way that you can use your Bluetooth phone as a separate line on the phone, and then have that serve as almost a separate line so that you can call with your Bluetooth from desk phone. In essence, it behaves very much like the Bluetooth applications for those that are lucky enough to have it in your car. So now you could have it in your phone to give you that level of connectivity, for your workplace. Again, as I mentioned earlier on the X6U, we support to do a lot of things with the video camera on our high end. What you can do is you can actually input a video camera outside of your business or even in your home or whatever like that, and actually put in an IP address on the X6U. And because the X6U has the H.264 codec, you can actually see based on a push of a key. You're saying, hey, who's that answering my door? You can go ahead and push a key and actually see either at the front gate at your office or even at your at a IP camera that you have put in your office. You can actually see who's actually there before you go ahead and pick up the phone. Again, because of this, it gives you a lot of capabilities of being able to support higher frame rate, which gives you far more resolution in seeing video cameras. Now, the action plan for the X6U is that we could actually support video as well as a multicast conversation. And what that really means is that in the video, what you can do is being able to send a call and actually support a video call through the X6U. You could do that through a SIP call, through RTSP, or you can actually do it through a multicast conversation. so that if you actually send a call through, you can actually multicast it throughout all of the sets, and being able to read these video codecs and have a conversation, at least on one side of it. It's not a video phone by definition on both ends, but it's great for one-way monitoring, specifically for security applications. Let's talk about the video preview capability. Now, this gives you a kind of a heads up in terms of, on the left-hand side, you can actually see a video camera that's pointing, say, at the first floor of a building. You can see the high resolution. You can see as people come in and out. And on the right-hand side, what you actually do is you see a preview. Because in typical video applications, one needs to answer the call before the video comes through. The capability that Fanvil has put in our phones is being able to see the person first before you actually pick up the call. So you can actually see if there's a video monitor that somebody shows up on the front door, you can see whether or not it's an intruder or it's somebody that's a guest that you're welcoming ahead of time before you actually pick up the call. So this video feature comes as a high request that came from a lot of our accounts, and we put that in as a standard feature so that it gives you the capability to see your people and to see who's at the door before you actually answer it, or you could basically reject the call. If it's a solicitor, for example. Again, I show you a really quick way, a 1, 2, 3 method on how to set it up. You can tell right here at the bottom of our GUI, once you get into the phone, you can actually put in the IP address of the actual camera that you put in, and we give you a quick heads up on what we can do, and you can set up one of our function keys that we offer so much, is saying who's actually at the front door or who's actually at the back door. You could set up one key or two keys to do either one of those functions and be able to see which one you can do. Here again is just a quick setup scheme. It's not meant to be overly complicated, but once you get into the GUI screen inside our phones, this gives you the capability of being able to do enable preview, which again gives you the capability of viewing the person that's knocking at your gate or at your front door before you actually allow them inside your office or in your home. Call recording. You can tell just from the front desk, you can see we have a call recording icon here. So every time it's actually enabled, you'll actually see it's a red icon, and there's 3 different ways that you can do it. You can do local, network, as well as SIP info recording, and that's how you can tell. What we do here is that for local recording, you just put in a flash drive on the existing USB port, and then from there, you can actually enable local recording based on that. And you can set up a DSS key that you can press it if you want to record a call, or you can actually do it via network recording. As I mentioned earlier, Fanvil has a device management system that you can load on your systems, or actually use a third-party system that you can use to record calls. And then you could hook that in to actually record all your conversations into a central server. But as well, some PBXs actually have call recording features on them, which could enable to our call recording application so that you can actually store all of the conversations on the PBX switch. So all 3 options are available to you, and it depends on how you want to implement and meet your specific customer requirements. Similar that we did before, we actually show some screenshots that actually show on the upper left-hand side some local recording. You could actually see what file sizes are actually existing within each of the calls. And then on our management system below here, through FDMS, you can actually show and set up the server to actually record your calls as well. And we show here a PBX system that actually has call recording capabilities that you could interface to our phone and actually show that you could actually record on all 3 of those mediums. Now, SIP hotspot. This is a great, unique functionality that's only available through Fanvil. Very often, you could set up any one of our XU phones to serve as a hotspot. Now, you may ask, what does a hotspot really mean? That means that you could set up one room, one office, one extension to one phone, and actually have that phone serve as a hotspot to many other phones that are in the same office, same home, or whatever application, or even the hotel for that matter, to ring all at the same time. So take a hospitality situation where you have room 305, and if you dial 305, that one phone will ring by your desk, but at the same time, you might have an external phone that's in the bathroom and one that's in the kitchen, if you have one of those capabilities, and all three will ring at the same time, and then yet the first one to pick up the call will be able to answer that call. And being able to do that gives the integrator far more flexibility in being able to implement multiple phones ringing at the same time. It also gives people to handle front desk applications, being able to share their phone with another person in case he or she wants to go out to lunch or something like that. So there's a lot of capabilities in being able to provide that. And it's available for the X3, 4, 5, and 6. That's available for group ringing, as well as registering a bunch of SIP accounts. Now let's talk about the management capability, which is auto provisioning. Again, for those who haven't set up their own config server to load their own firmware, we actually could provide a management system for you in case you haven't set that up, which allows you to gain some time. And here you can do things like monitoring MOS scores, being able to load specific firmware, provide some basic rebooting application on the phone from one single remote application. Again, this not only does our phones, but also does some of our other products as door phones and intercoms as well. So that's available to you. All you have to do is really contact me or contact a VoIP supply, and they'll be more than happy to get you set up with one of these things. Now let's talk about what's actually coming down the line in terms of roadmap features. UI styling and rebranding. Not only are we going to do the physical rebranding that can outfit your name, but we're going to actually rebrand the internal so that you can actually modify the internal GUI as well as the boot up screen, which is available today, but it gives you far more flexibility in being able to change colors and things like that to match the logo that you want to do it as well. Customized indication of BLF keys. This is always a big issue when you adopt a new phone, but we're going to actually put in capabilities that gives you the ability to change the color, the blinking or the non-blinking of the actual phone, depending on what function it is. Because some of these things are really difficult to set because they're preset, but what we're going to do is give you the capability, because many legacy companies may have a blinking red light, but many other phones may come in as a blinking green light, etc. And now you can actually match the behavioral function of what your client is used to the new phone, so that there is minimal behavior change in all of these things that are coming through. Incoming calls are going to have external and internal calls. Like, say, for example, if all external calls have an extension of 800 versus internal calls with 600, you can actually do a wildcard and actually ID a specific ringtone for all of those different ringers, depending on what extension that you define. Again, it gives the end user far more flexibility and capabilities of what they're actually going to do. Improve resolution of function locks. What does that really mean? Today, we have the ability to lock the phone to meet your specific functions, and that just brings the phone dead until you put in the key. But what we're going to do moving forward is give you far more resolution. You may not want to give a paging capability to everybody, so you might be able to lock out specific capabilities on functions for specific users, depending on what the IT person wants to do, depending on the user. So that's going to end up coming available. DTMF toggle. This is great when you want to adopt a PBX that does a lot of DTMF tones. So say, for example, many times you may dial a specific tone to turn something on and turn something off, whether it's forward to voicemail or not forward to voicemail. It may be a specific code to turn it on and off. What we've done is given you the ability to extend on just one key, the ability to toggle something on or off depending on what you want for that key. And that really greatly extends the usage of what it is. So if there's something that you're turning on and off, you could do that with just a single key versus using two. Automatic multicast and manual multicast. Again, all of these phones support multicasting, and depending on the end user, you can actually select what multicast messages you want to receive and don't receive. And that's really going to be up to the designer who puts in the system for them, but that level of flexibility does exist for you. Now, the last but not least, the incoming SIP call to multicast. As you may know, multicast is great when everybody's sharing the same network. So very often when you're in one site, you can announce and saying, guess what? The birthday cake is in the kitchen and everybody will work. But in a case like schools, you may have different buildings that may be located on separate networks, or maybe even a different office that's an internet connection away. What we've done, or what we're going to be doing to our phones, is being able to allow you to multicast not only to your local network, which everybody can hear in your office, but be able to also enable you to send a multicast signal to a remote office that's an internet connection away, and be able to concurrently send a multicast signal across the internet. This comes from a lot of customer requests that says, hey, we need this capability, and we're adding this capability as it comes in. And if you have a new add-on or an idea that you would like that would make that Fanvil that you would want us to have, by all means, send me a request, and we could always forward it to product management for discussion and putting it on our roadmap or not. Okay, now it's time for Q&A. I want to pass this back to Hazel to really jump in and see where we go from here.
All right. Thank you so much, Tommy. It's now that time, ladies and gents. Please submit your questions via the Q&A feature in the meeting portal. I'll give everyone a minute to get their questions in place. Here's my contact info. If an email or a phone conversation at a later time is better for you, please do. I am here from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday. All right, Tommy, for you, any limitations on brand or model IP camera that will preview?
It should work on all cameras, IP cameras that have an IP address, as well as being able to comply with H264 codec. I mean, that if you want high streaming, but it should work on nearly all of the IP cameras that have that can stream to a specific URL for that. And not only is it supported on our X6U, but I believe our X5U as well can also support that. No, actually our X7U, X6 or 7C, which is actually a higher end touchscreen phone that I didn't show here, but that's been released for quite some time. But I'm just talking about the X6U. So that's really it. It's really any IP camera that you have mounted there. You can actually feed the stream and actually have the stream go into the phone itself. And I provide that 1-2-step application, which you could just put in on the screen, and it gives you a quick idea on how to read that, and you can assign it a key so that you can see it right on your phone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tommy. We have one more. Does the Fanvil X210i have all the same features that you highlighted?
The which one?
X210i.
Oh, the 210, the X210. Yeah, the X210 is a very high-end feature phone that has all of the things that the X6U has, but it has probably 3 times the amount of buttons that it actually has. The X210i actually is sort of our high-end phone, but with integrated sidecars that are all on a single platform, giving you well over umpteenth amount of keys, as well as busy lamp fields. And we also have a model that actually has a gooseneck that isolates noise even further, and it gives the X210 capability to provide broadcasting as well as doing all of the SIP hotspots, as I explained on the X6U as well. So yeah, the answer to your question is yes, the X210 will support that. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
We'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day, everyone. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.